Well, hello, fights of friends. Finally, we are down to the main event. Daniel Cormier versus Stipe Miocic for the heavyweight championship of the world. And the chance to see the first fighter ever hold the light heavyweight title and the heavyweight title at the same time. I have flipped back and forth on who I think is going to win this fight so many times. It's hard to count. Daniel Cormier is, of course, one of the top light heavyweights to ever compete in the octagon. Alexander Gustafsson and Anthony Rumble Johnson are absolute assassins. He beat them both. His last fight against Volkan Ozdemir, he played Ozdemir's game. Ozdemir's game was a knockout game, and he knocked him out in the second round. His only loss is to the man thought to be the best ever, of course, Jon Jones. And right now, that legacy is shrouded in more controversy than Roseanne Barr's Twitter account. People say he's moving into Stipe's weight class. He's not a heavyweight. Well, look back in history. I know MMA fans have short memories, but let's go back to a little thing called Strikeforce. He was undefeated as a heavyweight. He went through Strikeforce's Grand Prix, beat Josh Barnett in the finals. Do you guys remember that fight, Antonio Silva against Mark Hunt? Back and forth. Daniel Cormier knocked Antonio Silva out in the first round. Antonio Silva had an epic back and forth war with Mark Hunt. For the entire 3 rounds, Hunt hit Silva with everything he could. One of the best heavyweight fights in UFC history, but Hunt couldn't put him away. Thought to be one of the greatest strikers of all time. Cormier knocked him out in the first round. Josh Barnett has been called the best catch wrestler in the history of MMA. Cormier out-wrestled him, out-catch wrestled him, dominated him to a 5-round unanimous decision. He will undoubtedly one day be in the UFC Hall of Fame. His opponent, Stipe Miocic, also has a good chance of meeting him there in the Hall of Fame. In his 14 appearances in the octagon, he has 8 fight performance bonuses. 14 fights, 8 fight performance bonuses. That's pretty incredible. He really started to get my attention when he wrote the blueprint on how to beat Roy Nelson back in 2013. Put a phenomenal boxing job on Roy when Roy was Roy, not the Roy of today. This is 5 years ago. So, but a lot of people have used that blueprint to beat him since. So he's got a ton of power. He took the best Mark Hunt had to offer in 2015. Hunt was stopping everybody then. This is 3 years ago with Hunt. I knocked out Hunt in the 5th round. So I'm not sure how DC is going to knock him out. But like I said, DC's got tremendous power too. He would lose his first time against Junior Dos Santos. The first time he fought Junior Dos Santos, he'd lose by unanimous decision. He proved that he could get past adversity, proved he could get better. He came back 17 months later, knocked out JDS in the first round 17 months later. Then in a 16-month span leading up to his current defense against Francis Ngannou, he knocked out Andrei Arlovsky, Fabricio Verdum, Alistair Overeem, and Junior Dos Santos, all in the first round, all in succession in a 16-month span. One of the most violent times in UFC heavyweight history, that 16-month span. You might be able to understand his frustration then with odds makers made him the underdog against Francis Ngannou, and the UFC heavily marketed Francis Ngannou against him when he was the champion. So the Pride of Cleveland obviously carried that chip on his shoulder after dominating Francis Ngannou when he actually denied Dana White the chance to put the belt around his waist. He slapped it away from Dana White, and Stipe's trainer put the belt around his waist. Big move. I better hope he keeps a hold of that title. He holds the record, though, for all-time defenses, of course, now consecutive defenses in the heavyweight division of the title. How much of that chip does he still take into the cage on July 7th against Daniel Cormier? Well, let's think. You're talking about two guys that have maybe two of the biggest chips on their shoulder in the UFC, and they're carrying those chips as UFC championship belts. Daniel Cormier for the doubt that has shrouded his losses to John Jones. Stipe Miocic, the lack of respect he's gotten from the UFC and from marketing in general. Just recently, they're finally beginning to market him a little bit. There are many different ways this fight could go. I was trying to think about, who would win this fight. Is there a clear answer to this? And I don't have a clear answer for you. And let me tell you why. I said that there's a lot of different ways this could go. Stipe could knock Daniel out quickly. Like I said, he's knocked just about everybody out recently, but Stipe. He has a tremendous 8-inch reach advantage, so you're looking at a John Jones type scenario, even more of a reach advantage. Stipe could keep him out on the end of his punches. DC could out-wrestle him. Stipe is an excellent wrestler. Nobody doubts that. He out-wrestled Francis Ngannou phenomenally. He's got one of the best takedown defenses also in the UFC. Daniel Cormier, though, is on another level. World-class wrestler, world-class takedown defense, even a notch or two above Stipe. Will the judges adhere to the new unified rules of MMA? That's my question mark. We've talked about it on here. Many thought Yoel Romero beat Robert Whittaker in their second match just recently, or at least tied him when he seemed to be on the verge of stopping Whittaker in 2 separate rounds. At least one of those rounds, most people, I thought both rounds that he almost stopped Whittaker in should have been 10-8 rounds. Not one 10-8 round was afforded. So given Stipe's power and DC's heart, we could easily be having this conversation again. I could easily see DC winning 3 rounds, Stipe hurting DC in 1 or 2 of those rounds, almost finishing him, DC coming back. At the end of the day, I believe it's a very close decision. I believe DC will be rocked by Stipe. I think Stipe will catch him a couple times. I think DC will get some takedowns. I give the advantage to the champ if the judges follow their own rules this time. They follow the unified MMA rules. If not, we could see DC retire and leave 2 divisions with vacant belts. And that would be history. I hope you've enjoyed this extended preview of UFC 226. I cannot wait to stream this. Like I said, as soon as I come back from vacation, I'm going to be streaming tomorrow from the War Zone. The next day, the 5th, PFL, stream 4 hours through. Then, Ultimate Fighter finale. Then, the entire card, UFC 226, that Saturday, all the way through. Absolutely huge weekend. Thank you guys so much for all of your support. All of you have a great, happy 4th. Go out and enjoy your family. And I will see you guys very soon. As always, I love you. I respect you. And I'll see your fine asses later.